In this episode of the Protocols of Equal, we're going to take a closer look at the principle of right of equal enforcement. This is the basic human right of accurate enforcement of equality. This enforcement is dedicated to defending the concept of equal share. The rule of sow and reap is the determining factor of what our equal share is. Equal enforcement can be formal or informal, meditative or unexpected, peaceful or violently lethal. Regardless, accurate enforcement of equality is a necessity for survival. How does it affect people? People who have equal enforcement live safe, courageous lives. People who do not have equal enforcement live unequal, oppressed and fearful lives. Let's find out why. This is the Protocols of Equal. An advanced technical framework with a scientific method to diagnose, adjudicate, assert, quantify, or teach equality. The Protocols of Equal can solve 90+% of societal inequalities. It is the most advanced equality framework on Earth. It is a core contributor in creating the equal side of society. The Express Solution. Honor the rule of sow and reap. Instill the rule of sow and reap in the hearts and actions of the people. Make sure it oversees all money, arms, and social networks. The Articulated Solution. Intelligently analyze each principle and clause with real-life examples. The Protocols of Equal is the engine that will drive society to an all-equal future. Right of equal enforcement. Definition. The basic human right of accurate enforcement of equality. This can be formal or informal. Explanation. A mandatory survival right. A safeguard against inequalities. The right of sow and reap makes it clear that all persons have a right to equally sow and reap. Any infringement of this right must be counteracted with the principle of right of equal enforcement. Freedom and equality are human nature. They are desired by all. Equal enforcement protects these necessary human desires. This enforcement could be utilized for non-lethal matters such as defamation of character, to moral, yet lethal self-defense. Anyone without equal enforcement is likely to endure fear and various forms of usury. It should be noted that oftentimes a reasonable amount of self-defense posture acts as a deterrent. Thus, it should be expected for a person to maintain a posture that indicates the backing of equal enforcement. Especially for social vices which are often infiltrated by unequal parties who seek to unnaturally control the rule of sow and reap. The spoils of this form of subversive conquering are redistributed as almshouses see fit. Due to this little-known fact, without equal enforcement, people may not get equal access to the opportunities they have earned, or get to make the money they truly deserve. People might not even get to have sex with, much less marry who they are truly compatible with. The aforementioned are only 3 examples, and this kind of occurrence is commonplace where social vices are concerned. Problems. 1. Unorganized yet highly active arms crowd. This is due to the fact that the absence of right of equal enforcement significantly increases the likelihood of various forms and degrees of usury, consequently, further perpetuating inequalities. 2. Unequal almshouses have a much stronger presence at arms as they operate in more subversive ways that are harder to trace. In addition, they have far less constraints in resorting to the use of arms. Hence, their control of social vices translates to more hidden influences in the socio-economic architecture, as opposed to equal arms. Within the social crowd, many people silently need equal enforcement. 3. Both formal and informal arms have significant issues in achieving a high rate of equal enforcement. Subpar rates are the usual norm for both sides. Formal arms and informal arms often have conflicting policies regarding personal defense philosophies. The usual topic is about weapons and how they can be carried and/or used. At times, this causes feuds between both parties. These 3 issues exemplifies widespread recurring problems that are desperately in need of accurate equal enforcement. Cause. There is much inequities within society. Without equality, freedom becomes elusive. As mentioned before, freedom and equality are human nature. A certain amount of people just refuse to remain the victim and be bullied at the bottom of an unequal society. Accordingly, they make efforts to secure their own equal enforcement. This further divides the arms crowd. It's important to note, however just the response are to inequalities, the chosen methods often leaves room to question if they were effectively handled. Further inequalities and errors often transpire via armed responses. In summary, without accurate equal enforcement, visions of peace are often challenged. Effects. The absence of the right of equal enforcement causes people to take matters into their own hands, further contributing to the lack of cohesive arms. The multitude of arms houses exemplifies the inability to arrive at a scalable united solution. Solutions. There is a significant requirement for equal enforcement. Prevention is always the most effective cure. Equal share gets peace. Instilling the rule of sow and reap is the most effective way to prevent the usage of the right of equal enforcement, and subsequently any possibility of violence. Accurately educate the populace about equal enforcement and the difference between moral and immoral enforcement. In addition, a viable, cohesive, equal enforcement methodology must be effectively applied. This equated strategy must be equally welcomed and effective for both formal and informal arms. Individual example. Situation. A well-known female advocate of racial equality started receiving violent threats about her life. She doesn't have any known conflicts with anyone. The threats are due to her representation of minority races and its growing influence. She represents a new philosophy that has the ability to significantly increase the productivity of minorities, thus increasing their influence. This level of influence will be increased according to the rule of sow and reap. It is in line with all well-earned moral standards. Its racial productivity is deemed a threat by a handful of unequal people from the majority race. The racial advocate is known to spread positivity, thus she is a welcomed voice in the community. She has many allies, some which she reaches out to with her safety concerns. In addition, she notifies the authorities. Both her allies and authorities have assured her safety. The community was made aware of the threats and advised to come forward with any information that will ensure her safety or catch the perpetrators. A direct message was sent to those who made the threats to cease and desist, or face consequences. Now, there are effective efforts in place to ensure her safety. Problems. The female advocate is threatened for finding new avenues of equality via applying the rule of sow and reap. Specifically, racial equality and the improved influence of minorities. These threats could be very dangerous. Causes. A handful of unequal people from the majority race who do not practice equality. Furthermore, these people are willing to violently defend their unequal beliefs. Effects. The risk of conflict. Any immoral act of violence against the female advocate will be countered with moral safety measures. This could resort to lethal consequences. Solutions. Due to the right of equal enforcement, the female advocate is entitled to seek out accurate equal enforcement. Her well-positioned allies and authorities are in the right should they have to physically enforce her safety. Group example. Situation. A group of minorities within a particular city are often the victims of violent attacks. These attacks appear to have hate-based motives. The minority group is often attacked by a majority group in an attempt to subjugate the minorities into an unequal societal existence. Weapons are often involved. The minorities have reported these issues to the authorities, yet due to the fleeting, unpredictable nature of these violent attacks, the perpetrators remain personally unidentified. Having no concrete leads, advice and record keeping is all the authorities can offer at the moment. The minority victims are usually peaceful people, and definitely don't possess as many weapons as the majority villains. Problems. The minorities are victims of an arms house. Social vices such as money, arms, and in this case status, are infiltrated by arms houses. In this case, the majority villains are attempting to control the local societal status of the minorities by robbing them with weapons. This in turn forces the minorities to give up their hard-earned valuables, thus limiting them into an unequal subsistence by fear of arms. Causes. The majority villains don't respect the rule of sow and reap, and subsequently disregard the principle of equality. Effects. Infiltration of social vices by an arms house. In this case status, and money. Those affected are often coerced into accepting unequal arms. Frequently living in fear of losing their connections to social vices, or even worse, their lives. Solutions. Equal enforcement must be sourced. Backed by equal enforcement, a viable, meditative outreach with the majority villains is recommended. This should aim to secure the existential right of the rule of sow and reap, along with other basic equalities. If this humble request is declined, a viable self-defense strategy will have to be applied. This could include improved safety initiatives and/or increased armed presence in the minority community. Always remember, in an unequal armed environment, outside of equally armed, equal enforcement, prayer is the only way to stop a bullet.